friends, it's Claire from Scrappy Nerd UK and welcome to my next video for December Daily Directory. So today I'm going to show you some things that you can do for interactive elements in your album. So this is actually making some inserts to go into your December daily. Now this can be adapted for any type of album that you're doing. So if you're doing a 6x8 or if you're doing a traveler's notebook or if you're doing any other type of album, you can add a mechanism on to this by the way of just using some washi, that you can actually use this element in whatever type of album that you're doing. So I was inspired by the recent, well, I've been doing the Ali Edwards product play and we've been looking at spinner elements, and I've included a few in mine already, but I wanted to make this spinner large. So this is cut to 6x8. Now in hindsight, what I should have done is I should have left myself some extra room to be able to punch holes to put this in my album. But this is just going to be a mock-up just to show you on how to do this. So what I've done here is I've got 2 bits of 6x8 and I've got a circle cut out of the centre. You can do the shape, the cut, any shape you like. It just needs to be big enough to add in your element. So I have this wreath die here. So that's going to fit nicely inside of the circle. You could also do a photo, or you could add an embellishment, something that will spin around. So the 2 bits here, you can use a die, or you could cut this out on a silhouette or a Cricut if you have one. So first of all, I'm going to spin this around. And I've got some green, not my favourite colour. But I've got some green cardstock here for the wreath. And I'm just going to die cut that out. If my hand wants to do it. Let's make sure that's released. Yep. Okay. So I have this lovely wreath die cut. I'm just going to get rid of the little bits. So what I want to do is, get rid of these little bits first, is I want to, because this cardstock is textured and it's not textured on the back, I want both textured pieces. So I'm going to flip the cardstock over so it gives me a mirrored image, and then I'm just going to go ahead and die cut that again. Now if you're using plain cardstock that's not textured at all, then you can just use, you don't need to flip it over, you can just use either side of the cardstock. I wanted mine to look the same both sides, so I'm going to go with the textured side. So I'm just going to, you are going to get a slightly different look because you get a debossed look, but I'm fine with that. Okay, so I have my wreath front and back. So when I flip them over and so they're the right way, then oops, when I stick them together, I'm going to have a mirror image. Now if I cut it the other way, I don't think this is, no, so it's not symmetrical. That doesn't look too bad actually, to be honest. So you could do it that way as well, but I've chosen to do mine this way. Now what I want to do, so I'm going to bring this back in, is I have this nylon thread, and I want a bit that's going to be long enough to attach my wreath with. Now there's going to be 2 ways of doing this. Now I have an open element here, so there's an open bit in the middle. I could have the string going straight the way through, but obviously you're going to see it in the middle. You could add something to cover that up, or you could do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to actually add 2 strings onto this. Just to make this quick and easy on the video, I am just going to be using some double-sided sticky, some little runner on the back. I don't suggest you do this because it probably won't stay stuck long term, so do use some wet glue to get that adhesive nice and covered on your die cut. And then what I'm going to do is I want 2 pieces, because as I said, this is an open wreath, and I want to pop 1 bit in the top here, and there's a little hole here, but I'm not too fussed because that's going to be covered. So I want that coming up from the center, and just to secure it a little bit more, because I don't want this falling out when I show you how this all comes together, I'm just going to pop a little bit of double-sided tape there to hold it down. And then I have my thread for the bottom as well, and I'm going to eyeball this and line this up, and then I want that there as well. Okay, so as I said, I'm just using that as a design, as a quicker way to be able to bring this video to you. And then I'm going to just remove this double-sided tape. And you could, if you are using a bit of double-sided to stick the thread down, then if it is poking through, if you've got this is probably not the best die to use for this, because obviously it's holey. So maybe something a bit more solid, like a photo would work perfectly. So I'm just going to then pop down my, wrong way. I'm going to pop down my other die cut image. There we are. And then we have top and bottom on a piece of nylon string. What I want to do finally is I want to add on this red bow. Now this particular die, I'm going to need to just cut that bottom bit off, because that's going to be poking through. So just for time's sake, please don't do this, but just for time's sake, I'm going just to use a little tape runner. And then to add this in, just going to open up the middle. Now decide which way you want it. I've gone with 2 of the same, and then when you put them together, you get a perfect circle in the middle. The easiest way probably is just to use a cutting machine or use dies. And then what I want to do is I want to line this up in the center, and using my double-sided tape again, just going to stick that down. And the same at the top, you want it nice and tight, so give it a proper tug when you're popping it in. And then I'm just going to add some, I'm going to get this all the way down here. Here we go. Oh, pokey tool. I'm going to take the backing off. I'll leave the ones for the string on for the minute. I'll press this double-sided tape down so it has got a proper grip on that thread, and then I'm just going to peel the backing off gently, because we don't want it pulling up that thread. Just tucking in any loose ends, and then I'm going to line up the backing for this, and just popping this down over the top. Then we have this spinner element here, and you can wind it up and you can let it spin away. I'd probably put a bow on the other side as well. Now, as I said, you can attach this. You can just grab some, if you're doing it in a traveler's notebook, obviously size it to the size you're working with. In order to add it as a an element in a traveller's notebook, you can just add some washi on, and then you'll have, and then washi the back as well, so you washi both sides, and then you have this little spinner element in your album. If you're doing it in a 6x8, as I said, what I suggest you do is you cut this to the size of the cards, the page protector, and then measure out where the centre's going to be, and then do exactly the same. As I said, if you're going to add a photo, it's much easier because you can run that string straight the way down. I can already see that I've made this a little bit looser than it should be. So yeah, just a tip, just make sure that is nice and tight when you're adding your adhesive. And then you've got this really super cute spinner element, which I've seen on cards and stuff, but what a great way to incorporate it into your December daily. So that is interactive element number 1. Okay, number 2, nice and simple idea, but not everybody would necessarily think to do this. So if you have a day of if you have a rough day and you want to put some journaling in, but you don't want it necessarily to be seen, one of the best ways that I've found is to use these little tabs. These are Avery insertable tabs, and you can find these on Amazon. And what you can do is, if you've got your photograph in the pocket, I don't have one to hand. Nope, I'll just have to do it this way. So if you have your photograph in your pocket, if you then have your journaling either on the 3x4 or the 4x6, pop your tab onto the journaling, and then all you're going to see is that little tab. So when you want to see the journaling, you can just pull that tab up and you can just push it back down. You can make these, not necessarily plastic ones, but you could just make yourself a normal little tab. You can just cut yourself a little something that's going to remind you that it's there. So a bit of, you could use a little bit of ribbon as well. That would work, but I think these are great to be able to get that hidden journaling in there. So that is interactive element number 2, nice, quick, simple one. Now this is number 3, interactive element number 3. You can add more pages or more photos or whatever you want to include into your album. And if you're using a page protector, you can do this. If you're using a traveler's notebook or another form of album, then you can do this also. So all I've got here is just some 3x4 bits of card. Now if you want to, if these need to be photos or if they are journaling cards, then that's completely fine. So use what you've got. These are just here for example. So I have done it before where I've just had one flip up, but you can add more in than that. The only thing I would say is just keep an eye on the thickness, because you don't want to bulk out your album too much with elements like this. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some washi. Now if I was going to add photos, what I would do is I'd use a piece of white cardstock, and then I would add my washi, and then I'd put my photo over the top to hide the washi. So all I'm going to do is just line these two little cards up, and I'm going to leave myself a little bit of a gap, so when I come to fold them, they fold nice and easily. You don't get the bulk there. And then all I'm going to do is add another one. So you can add, what do I want to do with this one? I think I want this one to fold up. You can add as little or as many as you like, but as I said, just be careful on the bulk you're going to be putting in the album. So I'm just going to trim down these. And then what I would probably do is go back to those Avery tabs, and I would add one of those on to remind you that there's a flip there, or make your own tabs, or use a paper clip or something that will remind you that they're there. So now this has given me a little 3-page flip up. So all I need to do is just pop that into my page protector or stick it down onto my traveler's notebook page, and then I have this handy little flip out, flip up, I can't remember which way it goes now. There we go. So this one flips this way. I would probably add another one on actually, looking at that. And you can do that both pockets. You can do it in all 3 pockets, depending on what page protector you've got. You could also do this if you've got a 6x8 full page protector. If you've got several 6x8 photos, it would be a bit of a nightmare holding all of them up if you were to do that, but it can work. So a little element here as to how you can add those extra photos, those extra journaling cards in when you've only got space or a space like this, or a single page in a traveler's notebook. So ignore the garish paper, it's just scrap that I've got beside me. So that is number 3, and now we're going to finally look at number 4. So we're going to go back to this one here. So I had these 2 circles here saved from the middle of that project, and I am going to make this into a little spinner. Now what I've done is I've very roughly I've figured out where the center is, and I've figured out 4 sections of this circle. So I'm just going to use my little circle punch, and I am going to eyeball this, and I'm just going to go into the roughly the center of each circle or of each quarter, should I say. And I'm just going to punch out a hole that's roughly the same distance in from the edge as the others. Now you can do more than 4. I'm just doing this as a demonstration. So I'm just going to go with 4. And then that is going to give me 4 holes that aren't the most perfectly spaced holes, but that's absolutely fine. So you're probably best off doing this on some white cardstock as your backing, but it's whatever you want to do. So basically I've ended up with 4 holes, and I'm going to use the back one to trace those holes. And if you have a Cricut then or a Silhouette, I suggest doing this on there, because you can make sure your holes are equally spaced. So we have this. Now what's going to happen is as this turns, those are going to end up in different holes. Now as you can see, my drawings are slightly off, so you probably do want to take a little bit more time doing this. Now, in order for you to know that there is a turning mechanism, you can, again, I'm just going to use one of the tabs to demonstrate. So you would just attach this on the back. So the top bit needs to remain, okay? And then I would just attach this here. So this would be the bit that you would hold on to and you would spin it. Now how we would attach these together is a nice and simple process. We would just pop a brad through the centre, but making sure that it's not too tight, because we want that back bit to be able to spin around. It's probably still a little bit too tight, and I'd probably pierce the hole a little bit bigger as well. Let's give it a little bit of wiggle room in there. Okay, and then as I said, just not doing it up too tight on the back. And then we have this that the back can spin around. And then you could do a bigger version of this, and you could then have this as a put all your Christmas movies. So all you would need to do, the reason I've drawn those circles is basically that's where your photo needs to go. So as it turns, the photos then turn, or you can add multiple little photos, and you could just do 4, but you could actually add 8 photos. So when you turn it, you get 4 different photos each time. And I think this is a really cute little element that you can add into your albums. Now, just thinking about how you're going to add this in, potentially actually what I would do is, because you're going to need to stick this on something, otherwise it's going to be free floating, is actually I'd probably add this to the front, because you're going to want the front. Yeah, you're probably going to want the front to be able to turn so you can stick the back to something. So perhaps I might stick that on to a piece of acetate. That might look quite nice. I don't have anything to hand. Did I bring any acetate? Oh yeah. So you could stick that onto a bit of acetate, and then you'd have your little turny tab like so. So the back bit would be stuck, and then you'd and then you would have this little turny tab here that you can actually turn your spinner around and see loads of different photos. You can add embellishments, but I would go with something flat like a sticker, and obviously be careful because this could get caught on the edges. If you're adding photos, then make sure they are stuck down firmly all the way around the edges. And I think it's just a really cute interactive element that you can include in your album. So just going over the 4 that we've done, we did the little spinner element. We looked at adding a tab in to be able to slot in and pull out your hidden journaling. I should have had a card ready for that. We also looked at just a very simple technique of taping together some either photos or journaling cards to make this really super quick flip out. And then we also looked at the spinner wheel here to be able to add a few photos or stickers or whatever you want to add on to this. And yeah, I hope this has brought you some inspiration as to how you can include some different interactive elements in your album. If you've enjoyed the video, then please give it a thumbs up and leave any comments down below. As I said, I'm still looking for suggestions as to how you can create a December daily that doesn't necessarily incorporate Christmas, and then I'm looking to share all of those ideas in another video for everybody at the end. And any questions that you've got for me for December daily, do leave them in the comments down below also, and I shall, if I get enough comments, I shall do a question and answer video. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.